Winding through deep canyons and hillsides for 13 miles, State Highway 27 meanders through some of California's most beautiful and wild landscape, parklands that have been preserved for everyone to enjoy. It is a land that is precious to all.
We live here because it is so beautiful. There is no mask between our families and nature, where wildlife is still wild, where you can smell nature every single morning. That is the personification of what California is, this wildness that cannot be divided up into little graphs, little tiny streets. It's wild, and we can fit in, and we can be part of it.
12,000 residents and 5,000 homes are in an area that Chumash called Topanga, a word meaning where the mountains meet the sea. This is an urban wildland community, an area which attracts those who want to live in the hillsides and canyons covered with trees and lush vegetation, apart from the concrete of the city.
There's an opportunity here to raise your kids around nature, around the beauty of nature, and that's really what's drawn us here, to raise our family here.
Well, we've lived in Topanga for about almost 12 years, 11 and a half years, and it's a pretty unique community. We love it. It's beautiful, and all the wonderful natural life that we have here, all the trees. And
there are, of course, I think throughout California, hundreds if not thousands of communities like ours that are nestled in amongst sagebrush or evergreen trees. It's a reality of modern life in California.
Nature also brings these communities a far different and threatening reality.
Every fall and winter here in Southern California, as the rest of the nation starts to cool off and great high pressure builds over the Great Plains, we often have a condition that's called a Santa Ana, where these high pressures to the east of us contrast with the cold ocean temperatures to the west of us. And the result are very, very strong winds coming through the Great Passes, down the mountainside into the Los Angeles Basin. And when we look at the statistics, really only 1 year out of 8 is wet. And so 7 out of 8 are dry. And so day to day, year to year, we're definitely living in a high-risk fire environment here in Southern California, as we all know. And of course, Topanga Canyon is that situation in spades.
I've been in the canyon for about 45 years, and what I've seen with the brush is pretty amazing. In some areas, especially in New Canyon, on Highway 27, I can vouch for personally being in there and seeing it. The dead brush in some areas is like 10 to 15 feet in width, just the dead brush alone, with the new brush over the top. Now, most of the houses in New Canyon are on slopes, surrounded by pockets of this deep, heavy brush. And it's got a huge potential for extreme danger to the point I would say equal to Oakland and maybe beyond.
Fueled by old-growth eucalyptus and pine trees, pushed by devil winds, the nation's worst urban fire raged for 3 days. Complicated by a lack of water from depleting reservoirs, insufficient communications hampered by ineffective equipment, fleeing residents on narrow, windy roads inhibiting firefighters' access. Temperatures reaching 2,000 degrees left the landscape virtually unrecognizable.
Tens of thousands of acres and destroyed dozens of homes.
50-mile-an-hour winds blew the fire through the canyon, devouring everything in its path for 15 miles to the ocean, where it struck Malibu with amazing fury.
It was obvious that things were pretty bad. We appeared to be looking at the La Costa hillside where I lived. I spent probably an hour and a half trying to get home because I had that conviction that if I could get there, nothing would happen. After my husband had wetted everything down and tried to hose things, it became obvious to him that there was no way he could survive if he stayed. There was fire burning up in every direction. It had just swept over the hill very, very suddenly, the last part of our hill. There were a few houses in the area that had survived, but for us, there was just nothing left.
Topanga and Malibu were still burning. As smoke darkened the sky, the dedicated firefighters from as far away as Montana and Idaho and as close as Ventura stationed themselves in close proximity to homes, ready to make a stand. The media gathered in the center of town, broadcasting live this incredible story, while an aerial armada from the U.S. Forest Service, the National Guard, and the Los Angeles County Fire Department, using retardant-dropping aircraft and heavy-lift helicopters, crisscrossed the skies looking for hotspots. Missing was the critical initial attack capabilities of a water bomber called the Super Scooper. This high-powered aircraft can scoop 1,600 gallons of water in 12 seconds and attack a wildfire at its source with repeated drops. It is the only aircraft in the world designed to fight wildfires and knock them down in the initial attack.
We needed water drops, desperately. If we just had some helicopters with water in that first day, or the Super Scooper, better still, we were desperate for help. Fires are inevitable here. They're going to happen, but I don't want to ever go through such a thing again. It had taken us 10 years to build our house the first time, and to have to start over again after the fire was such an overwhelming thing to endure. It was unbelievable how hard it was to pick up the pieces and start again.
The first models of the Canadian aircraft were built in 1967. The latest model, the CL-415, is used to fight wildfires throughout the provinces of Canada. It has been deployed for many years in France, Italy, Spain, Greece, and Croatia.
The Super Scooper is quite unique in its attack capabilities. It'll put out the fire quicker. It won't burn as much land, property, houses, chaparral, hillsides as these out-of-control fires, which are really kind of an unnatural situation, do. And that's very, very important to prevent the secondary effects of a fire and the erosion and sedimentation and mudslides and stuff like that. We really need to address that.
I've been through 5, 6 major brush fires, starting way back in the 60s in Laurel Canyon. So I know what brush fires feel like and what they mean to the people. Every piece of equipment that is available to fight a fire should be used to the full extent of its capabilities.
I still mourn the loss of those people and the lives that were so devastated and the people that were burned and traumatized. And there is just no expense that should be spared in trying to maintain the safety and the integrity of our natural area. That we recognize that we are in a very precarious situation here up in the mountains with our businesses as well as our homes, and we need the help of the Super Scoopers to keep ourselves safe in a fire emergency.
If there is a fire, which is a good chance on Highway 27 with the cigarette butts and automobile accidents and electrical lines and arcing, anything that can happen is the reason why we need them in this particular area, very much so.
I am very concerned about the fire seasons coming up every year. You get a feeling inside you can't imagine when you have experienced a fire. During the last fire in '93, we used up all of our resources, all of our money, because people lost everything. If California has the resources to own a Super Scooper, I think it's criminal that we don't. Why would you put out a fire with a squirt gun when you could put a big bucket of water over it?
If you can put a fire out in 2-3 hours and not have it go 2-3 days, it seems nuts not to. What was the cost of the Malibu fire in terms of fighting the fire, in terms of buildings, lost property, and lives? It's not just a matter of people who live in Topanga or Malibu. It's not just a matter of mountain residents, who ought to, take that risk, those crazy mountain folks or whatever. The cost is being borne across the state for fires that are happening across the state. Orange County, Oakland, the San Bernardinos, it's everywhere. And this plane can be used everywhere.
Really, the time to make preparations is really now. These 12,000 citizens that pay their taxes, all right, definitely have to have the protection. And the kind of protection that they need, because of the isolated nature of the canyon, they need an attack from the sky. These great Super Scoopers, which really can stop The Santa Ana fire is dead in their tracks. This is really critical.
We need to be protected in a modern sense. Modern technology has airplanes and can gather large amounts of water and put out fires when they come to threaten. And wildfires we don't even know how bad they could be.
If nature had its way, it would want to take all this brush out in a cyclic basis every 25 to 50 years and burn it straight down to the roots and then come new. But since people are here, super scoopers are imperative to protect human life.
You know, in light of our experience with the '93 fire and watching this wall of flame advance with nothing that could be done against this thing, and I just don't understand why we can't do this. If Minnesota can do it, if France can do it, if Croatia can do it, why can't California have super scoopers?
Every day the children were just keeping my spirits going. How are you? Is the house built yet? We're sorry it happened. What can we do? How can we help? It was amazing, but we needed the other kind of help too. I've got to feel that for the next fire, and there will be a fire, that there will be adequate fire engines, there will be people to evacuate us or to at least warn us of the danger, and there will be water from a super scooper. We have got to have something that drops major amounts of water on our hillside. There are too many people living too closely together, too many people in danger, too many of us who've rebuilt. Almost the entire hillside has had to be rebuilt. Some people are still rebuilding. Their lives were just such a mess following the fire. It can't happen again.
To have the most effective aerial firefighting arsenal, what's needed is the Los Angeles County Fire Department water-dropping helicopter fleet, the new Sikorsky Firehawk helicopter, the Erickson helitanker, and most critically, the CL-415 Super Scooper. Without such an arsenal deployed on a permanent basis, the potential for catastrophic wildfire remains. We need to stop wildfires during the initial attack phase before they burn out of control. The water bomber will often make the difference between a small fire and a disaster.